This is a weekend edition of Fear and Greed Business News, Australia's best business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer, and good morning this fine Saturday morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Sean.
Our weekend show is all about two of us, normally Michael and I, but this week it's Adam and I, each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, and our favourite story. Given Michael's way, Adam's in the hot seat. Of course, that means we need a judge. Who better? Who more impartial? Who more biased towards me than our resident economist and all-round nice guy, Stephen Koukoulas, the Kook. Welcome to the weekend edition of Fear and Greed.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Adam. And I will be judging this sensational session with bias, with fear, and with greed at the back of my mind.
And don't forget, normally when Adam does it, there's a fair bit of arbitrariness. What's that word? You know, you can be fairly arbitrary about what you're doing too. Really important to keep that in mind.
Indeed, just whatever sort of sounds good as you guys sort of rattle through the big ideas, the sleepers, and the favourite story of the week.
Yeah. Now, remember, Stephen, feel free to give your 2 cents worth. And if you think what I normally do is have a story, which I get about half the story, then Adam as judge fills in the other half and I win. So feel free to do that too.
I'm on standby, ready to rock and roll.
Now, look, the first story, we've done this the last couple of weeks and I'm afraid we're doing it again. We don't compete on the first story because economics isn't allowed to be a winner, but it's such a big story and we've also had elbow overseas. So I'm going to give you my biggest story. Adam will give you his biggest story. We want comments but not marks on this one. Fair enough?
That sounds fair to me.
Right, so my biggest local story is the economy. Where to start? Well, early in the week, Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock gave a speech saying the central bank wouldn't hesitate to lift rates if she felt it necessary. It was her first speech as Reserve Bank Governor, and she also talked about how renters were actually better off than a couple of years ago because mostly they had a job. How to make friends and influence people RBA style. Be honest. Ooh, ouch. Then we had the inflation figures. For the year, 5.4%. That's the year to September. For the quarter, 1.2%. Little higher, a touch higher than was expected. A couple of worrying signs in that. Underlying inflation was higher than expected. Services inflation is sticky. Then Bullock was before the Senate and talked about the inflation data being materially different. Now, Stephen, I want your take on this in a moment. Materially, another word, hard word to say, materially different. A very important word, materially, I think, in Reserve Bank speech. All the big banks now say there will be a rate rise on November 7. That's Melbourne Cup Day, including Westpac's Lucy Ellis. Now, why do we care about Lucy Ellis? Well, she's the former assistant governor of the Reserve Bank. She was responsible for forecasts. I don't know if that's a plus or a minus there. But anyway, she really knows what's going on inside the central bank. She's just left and joined Westpac. She saw those inflation figures and said the details are a bit concerning. Reckon there's going to be a rate hike. Massive story, the local economy this week. Would you agree, Adam?
I do, Sean, but I've got a contender. May I?
Yeah, please.
All right, I'm going to choose the category of politics for this one. Not just any old local politics, though. Stuff that we are going global.
Oh, crazy, Adam. Stuff that from Adam Lang. Stephen, I apologise for the language Adam's using.
I'm off the leash.
I'm all ears.
So he's off the leash.
Anthony Albanese has had the trade tailwinds at his back since gaining the Prime Ministerial office. And hasn't he put the Royal Australian Air Force's Boeing business jet to use? As you reported this week, Sean, our Prime Minister has had 9 visits with Joe Biden in this term of office. And on this one, he got the Stars and Stripes treatment. And yes, Sean, I'm stealing your line there.
It was a good line, though, don't you reckon?
It's a ripper.
Yeah, Stephen, we used the line, Albo got the Stars and Stripes treatment. It's a good line, wasn't it?
It's a pretty good line. Yes, it is. It's not bad.
I want bigger than pretty good.
He's soliciting for votes already.
They love him. They love him over there, it appears. And I think when you've got the similar sort of political biases, it certainly helps. I do feel sorry very much for Malcolm Turnbull and even Scott Morrison when they had to visit Donald Trump. That's what they could remember.
Remember Turnbull got into a fight. You have to bully a bully.
And while you might have some issues with Joe Biden's cognitive abilities at the moment, that nonetheless you're getting the support staff really on your side, which makes the visit a lot easier. That has to be said.
Anyway, we digress. Sorry, Adam.
Well, not at all. Speaking of Biden, he said the two countries must continue to advance freedom, security and prosperity and continue to build strong partnerships. In reply, Anthony Albanese said Australia had no greater friend than the United States. And our Prime Minister, he represented the everyday Australian during a White House dinner for 350 special guests.
Did he wear his Souths jersey underneath the suit?
I don't think so. And maybe a T-shirt from a good Australian band. So when he took to the stage and spoke to his partner, Jodie Hayden, amongst those 350 guests at the White House dinner, he said he didn't know how he was going to top this for future date nights. What a great line. It was a part trade and part tourism charm offensive reminiscent of Paul Hogan. And our PM will not be sitting still.
Hold on. Albo and Hogs. Surely you cannot be putting those two together.
Well,
sorry, Stephen marks off to Adam for putting Paul Hogan and Anthony Albanese in the same grouping. Anyway, Adam, I keep interrupting. Keep going.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. And our PM will not be sitting still for long. Soon, Albanese is heading to China to further our diplomatic and trade relations. From the USA to China, big countries, big stages, an international story vital to Australia's trade, political and geopolitical interests, and my nomination for biggest story of the week. Stephen.
They are both huge. One of them's a short-term story. It must be noted that the Sean's discussion about the inflation numbers, the quarterly inflation numbers, what Michelle Bullock's thinking about whether it's a material change in the outlook for inflation. Lucy Ellis's role, very important because, yes, she was the assistant governor at the RBA, so she would know what the forecasts were and how they work and all the rest of it. And I just note on that, it took her about 36 hours after the CPI number came out for her to change her view. She was saying no rate hikes immediately prior to the inflation number coming out. And then people were saying, well, what's Westpac's latest view? And then finally she came and said, look, begrudgingly, and if you read her report, it was couched in a lot of caution. So while they're on the rate hike, it's not with a great degree of oomph behind it. So that's a short-term thing. They hike rates on Melbourne Cup Day or they don't, whatever. Important story, very important, of course. But, the politics, the geopolitics, the sort of 1A Albo as he sort of zooms around the world trying to promote Australia's trade and defence links with the US and try to fix up the problems that we've got with China. That's a longer lasting story, but both very important. But I just note one of them's just about the short-term impact on the economy. The other one's going to be delivering trade and export receipts to Australia for many years to come, we hope, and will sort of enhance the alliance. So if there is a baddie that attacks Australia, the US will ride to our rescue, maybe.
Righto. So it's a draw, that one. That's what we decided on that one. Lucy Ellis is a fan. Well, I don't know if she's a fan of the podcast, but she's a friend of the podcast because I remember she once gave a speech, Adam, I can't remember the details, and she wrote in and basically said, Sean, you kind of got that wrong. Oh, right. Okay. So, but good on her. Like I had misinterpreted her ever so slightly. And she was, the reason she knew about it was one of her friends it was a mum's group that was doing yoga or something or other. And she had mentioned it and Lucy got in touch and said, hey, I think you got that wrong. Anyway, friend of the podcast. Let's move on. Adam, kick us. Now the competition really starts, Stephen. And look, feel free to mark Adam down anytime you'd like.
Oh,
seriously. I really mean that.
Warm-up's over. Gloves are off.
And just keep in mind, we used to work together at the Fin Review, Stephen. We were old mates. We've known each other for years. Just keep that in mind as we go.
Horse racing,
Horse racing, yeah.
Runs deep.
It does. Okay.
Shall I go on?
Yeah, most remarkable story for the week.
All right. I could have gone local for my nomination this week, especially with the Domain September house price report, which showed that across all capital cities, house prices are just $2,000 below previous records and apartments are just $5,000 below their previous highs. That's remarkable. But I've gone one step further to the even more remarkable world of USA politics.
Hold on. So you've just whacked in a precursor remarkable story to the main remarkable story.
Yeah, I've set the context, you see?
Yeah, minus 2 points for that, Stephen. Go on.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Thank you. So I've gone one step further to the even more remarkable world of USA politics. 3 weeks ago, the House of Representatives ousted Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, leaving it unable to carry out any of its basic duties. And this week, Mike Johnson, a Conservative with little leadership experience, was elected Speaker of the House in a 220 to 209 party line vote. So who is Mike Johnson, you may well ask? Well,
MJ. All his mates call him MJ.
He was elected in 2016 and will be the least experienced House Speaker in decades. Apart from that, he is best known as the author of an unsuccessful appeal by 126 House Republicans to get the Supreme Court to overturn election results in states that Donald Trump had lost in the 2020 presidential election. Yes, this Speaker of the House is the same one that tried to get the last election result overturned. Remarkable.
That is remarkable. So Magic Johnson is going to be the speaker. Well, what a background story. Fascinating. Okay, Sean.
Remarkable. I mean, it is remarkable, but I mean, it's over there across the Pacific. I mean, we're all part of the Pacific, including the US, because Joe Biden...
Biggest economy in the world, Sean.
Yeah, but Joe Biden, just like the whole thing, we're all part of the Pacific. Joe Biden realised that this week when he was talking to Albo, apparently. Anyway, I want to tell you the story of Azure Minerals. This is the most remarkable story of the week. Lithium prices might have come off, but the alkali metal is still in high demand. I like the fact that it's an alkali metal because I had to look that up. Anyway, an alkali metals is still in demand. ASX-listed explorer Azure Minerals, its share price is up 1,500% this year, from about 22 cents to about $3.50. Truly remarkable. Okay, a takeover bid has helped just a little. What happened? Chilean giant SQM has been stalking Azure for a while. Last month, it lobbed a $2.31 a share offer. It went to the board. Board chatted. Last Thursday, came back with a $3.50 a share offer. That's 54% more in about 6 weeks. Quite remarkable. Azure is probably the best performing company on the ASX this year. It's worth around $1.6 billion. Now, it's not in the top 200 because that is reweighted every quarter, and this has just gone so hard so fast, it hasn't had time to make it to the top 200, but it's up 1,500%. Now, the top companies in the ASX you see, or the top ASX 200 companies, are all gold companies. Bellevue, Emerald Resources, Ramelius Resources is the best. It's up about 158%. Azure is up 1,500%. Remarkable. I think I've said that a few times. Stephen.
And I'll say remarkable a few more times because I certainly don't have any of those in my little self-managed super fund. So I'm a bit disappointed in a sense. And given that the fund's had a so-so year at best, you're making me feel a little bit down that I haven't had that one in there. But two excellent stories, by the way. The interesting thing about the Azure thing sounds a bit like Poseidon, and we know how that ended. I love markets that rally and rally hard, and you see these sort of penny dreadfuls turn into, billion-dollar companies, as you alluded to, Sean. So that is a big story. Lithium, clearly the mineral, the alkaline mineral of the 21st century as we move to batteries and storage, and that frenzied production and exploration for lithium is going to be going on for many years to come. So that's an important story. It is a very important story. Now, the Speaker of the US House of Representatives, it is a big deal. The nature of the character, Johnson, who got the position, is fascinating, given that he sort of seems to be anti-democratic and doesn't know how votes are counted in the US. And the fact that he got the
irrelevant
is sort of a crazy thing. I'm going to, it's a close run call, but a couple of things I would note that the US election is only about 16, 17 months away now, so this Michael Johnson fellow probably won't be there. It's not going to be a lasting story. The lithium's going to be around for a long time. The capex, the takeovers, the mergers, the exploration is going to be something there. So I give it to Sean.
I'm liking this judge more and more, Adam.
But it's a close call.
Okay, so we're going to the break at 1 to Sean, 0 to Adam. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, on to the sleeper story. I think it's my turn to go first. I'm loving this next story. I'm very, very confident. So, CSL has had a little bit of a rough trot defending its territory recently. It's been sold off since late June, heavily. I think it's down more than 20% or so, because it missed earnings targets. One of the big issues is that it spent about $16 or $17 billion buying a business called Vifa last year. And the problem is that its main drug looks to be superseded, well, potentially could be superseded by something else. What's the sleeper here isn't so much the CSL part, it's this new drug. The new drug, it's a new type of drug called GLP-1 drugs. They're weight loss drugs. Now, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, the Norwegian group, they both have drugs on the market and they're proving very, very successful. The drugs mimic, now I'm going to get this wrong, but Stephen, I'm sure you'll help me out. Glucagon?
Glucagon, yes, I've heard that one.
Yeah. So they mimic glucagon-like peptide-1 hormone. That's a hormone that's released after eating. What these drugs do, they slow gastric emptying. Let's leave that. Reduce appetite. And basically they make you feel full. And they work. That's what's incredible. They've been pushed beyond obesity issues. And recent trials of GLP-1 drugs have worked on chronic kidney disease, cardiovascular disease. In fact, the chronic kidney disease trials were stopped early because they were so successful. Now, obesity is a massive issue globally because of all the other conditions it triggers. Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, sleep apnea, psychological issues. Think of all those musculoskeletal conditions. You know, you've got a bad knee. It's because you played too much sport when you were young and in some of our cases, quite a few kilos heavier than those days. So obesity is huge, but what if one drug could lessen obesity? Think of the incredible changes in the healthcare system. Think of the fact that you wouldn't need all those surgeons doing knee operations on middle-aged men like myself. Think of the fact that heart disease, liver disease. Think of that. So it could revolutionise the healthcare industry, but it goes further. A few weeks back, Walmart came out and said it had noticed a slightly lower basket size for people using GLP-1 drugs. So they have a pharmacy, Walmart, and so people who were buying the GLP-1 drugs or prescribed the GLP-1 drugs, then they'd go and shop and their basket sizes were slightly smaller. So this potentially changes the economics of the food companies. Now, I'm extrapolating a long way out here, but this drug, which Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk seem to really have got working, has massive potential implications. CSL was the introduction to this. It suddenly has a new competitor in its V4 business, but it's way, way beyond that. I think this is a great sleeper story. I suspect this could be the sleeper story of the year, possibly. Not that I want to oversell it or anything.
It's pretty good. It's a very important one, I think, and yes, I've been sort of seeing that shares in McDonald's and the like are falling because people who take this drug who are losing their appetite and perhaps feel a bit better when they're losing weight will probably sort of realise that there are health implications from being a bit lighter. And
so, look, I'm very happy to take the win here and now, but we better put up with that.
I like it. I haven't awarded any points yet. I'm just listening.
Okay, Adam.
So my sleeper story is the increasing voice and activism of shareholders that we've seen lately, and especially this week. First, the blue chip heir of the Woolworths annual general meeting had a surprise visit from former chief executive Roger Corbett, criticising the current chair, Scott Perkins, for supporting the status quo at Endeavour Group. Corbett was lamenting the 40% share price decline at Endeavour post-demerger from Woolworths, and he wants to change some of its directors. Shareholders also delivered a first strike against the board's remuneration report. Yes, investors got spicy at the Woolworths AGM. Moving on to APA, the chair of the gas pipeline owner APA, Michael Fraser, saw investors deliver a large protest vote against its remuneration report amid concerns that performance targets were not high enough. That's right, not good enough, go back, do better. Whitehaven Coal suffered a first strike against its executive pay regime after 40.6% of investors voted against the miners' remuneration report. And Stephen, SCA had its annual general meeting on Friday, and what timing that was. Current 14.8% shareholder and competitive rival ARN has an offer to buy the company, break it up, take the pieces it wants and leave the rest for Anchorage Capital Partners. That is taking shareholder activism to a very high level. So shareholders are sharing their feelings and letting boards know exactly how they feel, and I don't think that appetite is going to change anytime soon. That's why this is my Sleeper Story nomination for the week. Stephen.
It is a sleeper story, and it's a good one too. Shareholder power. It's one of the ones that has been, lagging for some time, I guess, because the big super funds and others who hold the shares in the bulk of these companies are the ones that sort of tend to go with the flow. But if we're getting this activism, it's going to hold companies to account, even the ones who are developing these weight loss drugs, that they're going to be accountable to shareholders because of that requirement, I suppose, that shareholders are demanding that firms do the right thing, that they pay themselves fairly, that they've got an eye on sort of morally sound things that they're doing. So, yes, a very interesting one there, Adam. I'm just going to sort of go away and tote up my points for both of these stories.
So while you're toting up those points, can I just point, this is obviously to help Adam, how can a sleeper story be about people being louder? I never go to sleep when people are louder. Activism, voice, that doesn't put me to sleep. Just pointing that out.
I think that's a little misreading of the category, Sean.
Sean, that's a little harsh. I have to. You've just lost the point of being a little bit direct there.
Well, that's what the show's about. That's what the weekend edition is about. Abuse of Adam normally. Michael, I miss you.
But look, this is a very tough call. I do love the shareholder story, and I'm a big fan of shareholders sort of flexing their muscles and demanding that the board, that the executives of a business do the right thing, whatever that may be.
Yes, get involved.
We know what it is. We know what the companies that do well and don't do well, and sometimes they get away with not doing the right thing because shareholders are a bit too passive, which are asleep at the wheel, if you like. But again, I think that the problems of obesity and things are huge, and if even there's a step in the right direction in this evolution of drugs and how they're prescribed and people becoming healthier, and as Sean rightly pointed out, the health benefits from people not being obese or fewer people in society having better health conditions. I'm going to have to award this to Sean.
Woohoo! 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 Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Adam, but this week it's Sean that sort of hit the ball out of the park.
Thank you. Look, it's to be honest, having known you for a long while, I've been really working hard on working your biases. So I actually think that I do have a leg up in this, and I don't want to be generous in my wins at all.
Well, I'm disappointed no one had a horse racing story. Adam, you could have come up with the 151 shot that won at Gosford yesterday and said, I hope, Stephen, you had. That was a sleeper because it run its last three starts. It bowled in at 150 to 1. I hope you had $10 on it. I didn't, by the way.
Alas, I missed that one.
Righto, Adam. Let's move on. What was your favourite story of the week?
All right. This week, I was blown away by the numbers in this story, and we are called Fear and Greed Business News, and this one ticks so many boxes for the favourite story of the week. Chemist Warehouse was founded with one Melbourne pharmacy in the year 2000 by pharmacist Jack Gance and businessman Mario Verrocchi. Today, the brand has over 500 stores across Australia, employing more than 17,000 people, and has expanded into New Zealand, Ireland, and China to be a $3 billion business. So this week, the Australian Financial Review reported that audited accounts from Chemist Warehouse's parent company, CW Group, showed that the founders and their families were paid $264 million in dividends in the year ended June 30. How's that for a payout? On top of that, directors were paid a further $101 million in dividends earlier this month. That's a $365 million dividend. To start this century with one store, build a $3 billion business and pay the owners $365 million in dividends is an incredible achievement, a business success story, and my favourite of the week.
It's a good one. It's a very good one.
Yeah, it is a good one. Apparently the company's value, there have been investment bankers around saying it's worth about $5 billion, wow. Chemist Warehouse. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Incredible. I'll tell you my favourite story. It was the expose by the Sydney Morning Herald and Age, a couple of their great journalists, Nick McKenzie, Richard Baker, about how Anthony Pratt buys influence. Now, Pratt owns Visi, the cardboard box company. He's Australia's third richest person behind Gina Rinehart and Andrew Forrest. They got access to tapes along with internal documents from Pratt's company and briefings from over a dozen sources in the United States and Australia. They put it together and to reveal how Pratt uses money to gain access to power. The revelations talk about a $1 million promised payment to Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. They talk about financial dealings with then Prince Charles in the hope he would become king. In a recorded call, Pratt made the comment about Charles, "My superpower is that I am rich, so I'm useful to him," right? The best, however, was how Pratt gained access to Donald Trump. He spent thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, in fact, on memberships and event fees at the ex-president's private Florida club, Mar-a-Lago. It gained him access to Trump. He got to know the president. Apparently, they spoke about all sorts of things like submarines in the Middle East and potentially classified information. Mind you, when it came out this week, Trump wasn't particularly generous about Anthony Pratt. He called Pratt a red-headed weirdo from Australia. At least he's our red-headed weirdo, Mr. Trump. On covert recordings, Pratt also privately claimed that he donated $1 million to the Voice referendum, the Yes campaign, because he'd fielded a request to do so from a senior advisor to PM Anthony Albanese. Just great journalism, fun story, big personalities, just my favourite story of the week.
And just getting that influence. But look, in a sense, I'm not surprised by that story at all.
No, that's true.
You know, the billionaire influence on politicians and decision makers and the like, it's fantastic to read about it. Great to hear the colour and all the rest of it. No doubt about that it's a really sort of great expose. It's sort of like peeling off the Band-Aid to see what's underneath, and it's sometimes not that pretty. But Chemist's Warehouse, what a stunning success story, as you said, from one little corner store in Melbourne to, you know, a business worth $5 billion and paying hundreds of billions of dollars of dividends. That beats my Gosford winner yesterday. And so on this one, definitely, Adam, a good win, and I'm rating that one as a fantastic story and a success story for Australia, which I do like too, as an 80-78 win to Adam.
Ooh, nice.
He came back at the end.
And on total points, we've got, 284? Sorry, 282 to 281. So, Sean, you are the winner of this week's.
By a nose.
Okay, now, by a nose, what I would like to say, I spoke to Stephen during the week and said, would you mind coming on the show and doing it? And Stephen said, yeah, look, I'm really happy to. I like the weekend edition, but I'm not going to be like Adam. I'm not going to have these really close run things. I'm going to be a bit harder on the marking and no big scores or anything like that. Stephen, what happened?
Well, 80s and 70s, they're not 9 out of 10 or 92.
No.
You know,
I know, but to get big scores and you end up at 282 to 281.
Out of 300. It's out of 300. Look, they're sort of, maybe I'm a bit more generous than I thought I was going to be at the end of the day, because all 6 stories, or all 8 stories actually, were fantastic. And, you know, being a judge in this sort of show is really difficult when you've confronted with completely different left field discussions about important issues. Yeah, it's a bit hard to work out which one's the better one.
Oh, Stephen, my brother, I hear you.
Yeah, it's a bit like going to the Chinese restaurant. You know, the difference between a lemon chicken and a beef and black bean, they're very different, but hey, they're both pretty good.
Beef and black bean versus lemon chicken.
I'm getting hungry now.
Look at your rate test. You know?
Well, it's a lemon chicken. You never go to the beef and black bean.
Oh, I'm a beef and black bean fan. So there you go. It's in the eye of the beholder.
So this is a discussion that Adam and I had this week, Stephen. It's worth getting your input. Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Oh, definitely smooth. There's no doubt about it.
Ouch.
Crunchy.
Oh, crunchy.
Smooth. Well, we had a bit of a debate about the 100-year anniversary of Vegemite this week. I can't imagine crunchy Vegemite. It sort of like doesn't go. So.
No, that's true. But Stephen, your kids are older. I mean, I understand that you went through the smooth period of your life because you had kids and that's what you had to do. But surely now that they're off your hands, well and truly, you're back to crunchy? No?
No. I'm a smooth operator.
You are. Look, Stephen, thank you very much for joining us for the weekend edition. We will have you back anytime, so long as I win. Thanks for being part of it.
Absolute pleasure and a privilege to be involved in this fantastic debate. I loved it. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Sean.
And Adam, thank you. I think what we really gained an insight in today is just how hard your job is and kind of It's harder to be rude to a guest judge than it is to you. I found that a bit difficult today.
Well, you did a pretty good job.
Thank you, Adam.
No, thank you, Sean. It was great fun.
Make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X and Facebook. I'm Sean Aylmer, and that was the weekend edition of Fear and Greed Business News. Enjoy the next couple of days.